Thank you for that warm introduction. Thank you for that warm and inviting introduction. You blew me away. Thank you very much. That's all right. You've said enough. You've said enough. Thank you. You've said plenty. Thank you very much. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. 2 or 3 things come to mind that aren't in my notes, and I'm going to just unwrap this right quick, if you don't mind. It'll be easier than standing there. So solitary.
But I can hit
So, one of the things I want, when you mention recent deaths by the complications of COVID-19, the rate for positive tests in Hall County has been as high as 33%, meaning for every 100 people who were tested, 33 of them had tested COVID positive. Right now, the testing rate is around 10%. So, frankly, after the holidays, after Christmas, after the Super Bowl, we didn't have as big a bump after the Super Bowl. After Thanksgiving particularly, we had huge spikes. And we had deaths. And behind those deaths, we had low positive rates. And ladies and gentlemen, in the state capitol, there are probably 700 or 800 people there every single day. And we are tested twice a week. We're tested twice a week. We're diligent about a mask. You don't see anybody without a mask. And we social distance where possible and when possible. And our positive rate is less than 1%. So what would you rather have, 33% positive or 1% positive? So it tells you that I don't care what we want to believe, the numbers would indicate, the evidence would indicate that those COVID protocols do work. And I would encourage you to use those in your lives and in your families and in your communities. So I want to open up that. And then I want to also, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. I've had several people from this organization, Teresa included, call and ask me why you did not vote to have a special session. So to have a special session of the General Assembly, to call a special session of the General Assembly, you have to have a 3/5 vote, which is 60%. There are 56 members of the Senate. What is 60% of 56? Anybody know offhand? It happens to be 34. Guess how many Republicans we have in the state Senate? 34. You were very close. You were very close. Give the guy a cigar. But you could not have gotten all 34 of them to vote for it. Probably not. You got 34 of them to vote for it. So you had 34. You needed 34 votes. You also need 3/5 of the House. How many members are in the House of Representatives? 180. What is 3/5 of 180? 108. How many Republicans are there? 103. We simply did not have the votes. Whether you believed it was appropriate or didn't believe it was appropriate, the votes weren't there. There was not a way to go forward. And if you did get into the special session, that's a separate matter entirely. How you handle what you do when you get there, how you handle it when you get there, that's a separate matter entirely. I want to go swimming, but I don't have a swimming pool. Well, first thing I'd build a swimming pool. If I want to have a special session, I got to have the votes. The votes simply were not there. That's the long and the short of it. So I want to get that elephant out of the room early. There's a lot of folks that are upset, continue to be upset, have been upset, and a lot of people who are disappointed, continue to be disappointed about the outcome of our November election. There's a lot of folks even equally upset about the outcome of our February runoff, right?
Right.
We worked, right? Y'all knocked on doors, right? Everybody who made a donation to Loeffler, Trump, and Purdue, you don't have to raise your hand, but think about it, think about it. So we got 5 or 6 in here, 5 or 6, maybe 8, maybe 8. We got 5 or 6 or 8. Everybody who worked and went to businesses and went to organizations and spoke on behalf of them, raise your hand. Everybody who hosted events for them, raise your hand. So we might have 15 people out of this entire group. Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't start working harder and working more effectively and making our tent bigger and bringing more people under that tent, we will not succeed. I'm telling you plain and simple. If we do not get people of color to vote with us, I'll stand for questions in just a moment. If you'll just hold that question, please, ma'am. If we do not get people of color to vote with us, if we do not get people of other ethnicities to vote with us, we will have a difficult time succeeding going forward. And that's just the fact of the matter. And we have got to broaden our tent. We've got to bring more people under it. We have a better product. We have a better product than the Democratic Party. We are a party of self-reliance. We are a party of personal decisions. We're a party of personal responsibility. We are a party of our future contingent upon the decisions and the hard work that we do. Not the hard work of government, not dependency upon government, not dependency upon others, but dependency upon ourselves and our families and our communities and our businesses. So we have got to move forward in that regard. Let's talk about some of the questions I got prior to coming were around the elections, around the audits, around the Dominion voting machine, around the Secretary of State, around the integrity of the ballot, around the integrity of the vote. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to restore confidence and faith in the ballot box. And if we do not have confidence and faith in the ballot box, if people don't have faith in their elections, then they don't have faith in their monetary system, in their currency, and then they don't have faith in their government. We have got to restore faith and confidence in the ballot box. We have put together a number of measures to do that. The Secretary of State, y'all know about the certifications. Y'all know when he did it. Y'all know the numbers. Y'all have seen the outcome. I have seen the outcome. We have seen the certification. On November 13th, the first Georgia audit found that most of the initial results reported on election night were accurate. Most of the results that I felt like, I looked at it and I said, well, how could David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler be ahead by 100,000 votes when I go to bed? But when I go to bed, DeKalb County hasn't counted their absentee ballots. Does anybody in here know what percentage DeKalb County went for Loeffler and Perdue?
80%.
84, I think. 84, I believe. 84%. 84%. 84% of those votes were Democratic. People say that's not possible. If you think that's not possible, you hadn't been to DeKalb County lately. I'm here to tell you. I mean, you couldn't have found a Perdue or a Loeffler sign in that county if your life depended on it. And I drive in and out of there all the time. So one of the problems we had during the election was we did not have a number, we did not have an idea how many ballots were out there, how many ballots were yet to be counted. We didn't have a denominator. If you got a denominator, you know there's 180,000 ballots out there, and election night, 180,000 ballots are counted, you got a denominator and a numerator, and they match. And that's one of the things that we've got to change. So all those kind of circumstances, I mean, man, it was just a smack in the face. It was a very difficult circumstance for all of us to take. So on November 20th, the Secretary of State recertified Georgia's November 3rd presidential election. And the certification came following an audit-triggered hand recount and the formal recount requested by the Trump campaign. Both recounts upheld the original outcome of the race. On December 7th, the Secretary of State's office affirmed the presidential election in Georgia. On December 29th, among the 15,000 vote signatures audited in Cobb County, there are only a few mismatched. There's another thing that's a problem. Who's matching the signature? Who's matching the signature? Do they have any training? Do they have any qualifications? Those are the kind of things that we've got to fix.
Do they have?
Let me stand for those questions in just a moment, if you don't mind. If you just wait, just let me, and then we'll complete, okay? Among those 15,000 vote signatures, and there were only a few mismatched. After all the Georgia recount, after all the recounts, roughly 1,700 votes in the final were thrown out. Georgia's election reform, the laws, our election reform is necessary. We can't skirt the issue. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. I'm not here to dance around the topic. I'm here to tell it like it is as I know it. I'm here to tell you the facts as I know them. I mean, trust me, I'm a car salesman. I mean, really. I mean, and I'll tell you something else. When you go to the Capitol and the voice of reason is a car salesman, you got a problem. So, some of the highlights.
So you said it was 1,700 of the 15,000?
Yes, sir.
That's over 10%.
1,700 votes, 0.35%, or roughly 1,700 votes of the final counts were differ among the total ballots cast in Georgia. Georgia, not in Ga County, I'm sorry. I may have misspoken there. Let me come back to those questions in just a moment. So some of the highlights. Senate Bill 67 passed last week. Passed out of the House last week, out of the Senate last week. It's over in the House now. Will require proof of identification of the absentee ballot application and the web portal applications. Senate Bill 71 would redefine Georgia's definition of absentee elector. There's a huge difference between by cause and at will. I'm out of work occasionally by cause. I'm not out of work at will. I just don't not show up. I just don't do it at will. I do it by cause. So we should have absentee ballots by cause. So that'll be another issue that we're going to take up. So people have asked me on many occasions, what are y'all doing to change? What are you doing to rectify? I've got a list here of the bills that are currently pending in the Senate. We have a number of bills. I testified before the Elections Committee in the House yesterday about the bills that they're going to have. Senate Bill 62 provides the name and designation of the precincts as they appear on every ballot. So we want to be able to, we need a precinct number on the ballot. So when we have to audit a precinct, we know whose ballots are in that precinct. Because those ballots are all combined and we don't know where the ballots came from. So we need every ballot needs to have a precinct number. And by the way, every person needs to be voting in their precinct. Senate Bill 67, submission of identification in connection with the absentee ballot applications. Some sort of identification. What? I mean, there are thousands, not thousands, there's dozens and dozens of things that we have to have a personal ID to take place. And if I want to go to the beer store, I got to do it, right? I got to identify myself. If I want to go to the library and check out a book, what do I got to do? I got to identify myself. All kinds of things we do. If I want to pick up drugs at go to the pharmacy, at the drugstore, and pick up my prescription, what do I have to do? I have to prove who I am. That is not an unreasonable request. And anybody who says that's unreasonable is wrong. That is not an unreasonable request. So Senate Bill 67 would address that. Senate Bill 68, the manner of delivery of absentee ballot votes. What is the chain of custody? Where are they? Who's handling them? Where are they handled? How are they transported? Who's transporting them? What containers are they in? Are they sealed? Are they not sealed? Etc. Senate Bill 69, desiring persons to register to vote, update their voter registration through an application for a driver's license. This has been a huge problem because people would go to their driver's license, they give their address for the driver's license, they've got a different address for their voting, they move out of state, and it doesn't update their voter registration, so they move to Alabama or wherever, and what happens when their address is updated? Well, their mail is forwarded. So their mail is forwarded to Alabama. So they could be getting an absentee ballot. So that's something we're going to correct with Senate Bill 69. Senate Bill 70, a person who votes in general election for the office of U.S. Representative or U.S. Senator in another state is ineligible to vote in our state. We heard rumors and stories of people are going to load up on buses and come from other states and vote in Georgia. Well, that would be absolutely expressly forbidden. It's already forbidden. This will give it more strength. Senate Bill 71, the definition of absentee elector again, and that is again at will or by cause. Senate Bill 73, absentee ballot applications to certain election officials or our candidates. So, can a candidate vote absentee? Can election officials vote absentee? Senate Bill 74, ability of poll watchers at tabulating centers to observe the vote counting process. We all saw the video from State Farm Arena. We heard people testify that they were sent home. We heard people testify that they were counting votes without proper observation. That's going to address that. Senate Bill 89, provide chief elections officer to provide the qualifications, appointment, service, or supervision of such duties. In Hall County, that's not a problem. But there are counties in this state that are habitual offenders in terms of the process and in terms of the timeliness. Can y'all name any of those counties? I can too, but let's let them remain anonymous. But we know who they are, and they know who they are. And they are habitually late in turning in their results. So Senate Bill 89 will address that with an elections assistance officer. He will go to those counties, he will coach them, he will mentor them, he will instruct them, he'll bring best practices, and if they do not comply, or they're not able to comply, he will have the ability to recommend to the State Board of Elections to have that individual or those individuals suspended for 90 days. During that 90 days, they can either take the classes to be coached and to be helped to run an election efficiently and properly, or they can go on down the road. They can be dismissed. They have a 10-day appeal period, but we will have an opportunity for the State Elections Board to get involved in those decisions. Now, in those counties that y'all had in your mind, if the local legislative delegation had the authority to do that, do you think anything would happen? No. That's why we want to put it in the hands of the State Elections Board. My friend Craig Lutz has looked at this bill as well. Greg, how you feel? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm like Craig, too.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I'm a thumbs up. I'm a thumbs up because nobody's calling you complaining about Fulton County. All right, that's 89. 175, identification of electors on absentee ballots. Again, increased penalties for election fraud, making it a felony rather than misdemeanor. Absentee elector for reasons of ballots, again. Absentee ballot applications not being sent with the first being received. Absentee ballots. Inputting credit data for voting data. That's 184. 188, elections and primaries are established and maintained by the Secretary of State. 202, persons to mail in the ballots. SB 232, unique barcodes or watermarks on each individual ballot. So, I don't have a $100 bill, but if you had a $100 bill, you look at the $100 bill and you hold it up to the light, you see that little tape that goes through there. If you have a $100 bill and you take a black light and you shine it one direction and then you shine it the other direction, the ink changes from gold to green. There are all kinds of items that we can put on ballots to make sure that there are authentic ballots. I want every single person that's registered to vote, that's eligible to vote, that should be voting, to vote. I want every single person that's not eligible to vote, that shouldn't be voting, not to vote. And I want there to be penalties for those who infringe upon our right to vote. One last one that I'll mention to you. These are the measures that are being taken up. Senate Resolution 100 creates a statewide grand jury to specifically investigate election fraud. Right now, the Secretary of State's doing the investigation of election fraud. Frankly, I think it should be with the Attorney General or the GBI. They need to have real teeth. So those are the bills that we are pending right now. And on every one of those bills, I am either the author or the co-sponsor on each of those bills. Those are the things that we're doing in your state Senate to restore confidence in the ballot box. And that is our number one goal, is to restore confidence in the ballot box. Now, I think you had one question when you were first one.
Well, I wanted to know, some of those bills that you mentioned there, aren't some of those already state law?
Some of those are state law and they're misdemeanors, they'll be changed to felonies. Some of those are done by rule and regulation by departments. But we're gonna put those in code so that basically in Georgia, we pass a law and then if it has to do, let's say, driver services. Driver services does the rules and regulations to implement it. Sometimes the rules and regulations don't match up with the intent of the legislation. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a lot of those things in code.
Yeah, well, because
Okay.
undoubtedly, they did not follow in this line.
That's correct, that's correct.
They did not follow
Are we in the question and answer period?
You could be.
Okay.
If you're right. Wait, no, I get to go first.
I have my phone.
I can knock you down.
Never argue with a man with a microphone.
How many times you never argue
Go
with
ahead,
a woman?
go ahead, tell me.
Because you know.
Go ahead.
Okay, now, of all of these Senate bills that you've talked about.
Yep.
Now, how many of these will be finalized by April 2nd, because that's the end of the Journal of Senate?
Everything that passes will be finalized by April 2nd.
Okay, and what day is crossover day?
Steve, what day is crossover day? We got the calendar yesterday, 28th?
Week from Monday,
Week from Monday.
so whatever it is, March 8th.
March 8th, day 28th, sorry.
Okay, and then Sine Die is,
March 31st.
31st, yeah. It's fluid right now. It's been changing. Did we get the adjournment resolution yesterday?
Yesterday evening.
Yesterday evening, okay, late yesterday, we got the adjournment resolution. I haven't seen it.
okay, and also one of the bills that, I think you were one of the co-sponsors on, the Senate Bill 241.
Senate Bill 241, what was it?
That's the omnibus bill.
Oh, heavens, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, one of the provisions in there was to eliminate the no excuse absentee ballots.
That's correct, and that's in here as well.
That is coming up for a vote on Monday.
Monday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken.
And are you going to vote for or against?
I intend, I'm a co-sponsor, I intend to vote for it. I'm the second signer.
You just want me
Just
to-
read the details.
Well, let me follow up on that really quick on 240 as the no excuse absentee ballot. The Strickland Amendment is intended to strip out any restrictions that apply to the absentee ballot. Essentially, it would preserve the current law as it relates to no excuse absentee voting. Senator Strickland, a Republican from Henry County, had the absentee amendment ready on Thursday when the omnibus bill was heard in committee. Strickland made the motion to amend. You second the motion.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, Monday, are you going to follow through supporting that? Or why did you second that motion?
We can't have the discussion. We can't have the discussion without a second.
Right, I understand,
Okay.
but Why was it you that followed? Are you for no excuse
I
absentee
am
ballot?
for every senator and every citizen having a voice and every voice being heard. We could not hear the amendment without a second. It's simple parliamentary procedure.
Okay, but the question is, do you agree with no excuse absentee ballots?
I am the author, and I do not agree with no excuse absentee ballots. And if there's going to be an absentee ballot, there's got to be a reason. If you're out of town, if you're sick, if you're infirm, if you're disabled, if you're military, if you're away in college, all those kind of things have to be considered. So, you know, my elderly parent or my child away in college need, should, and deserve the opportunity to vote.
Not to keep going, a lot of people say you don't agree with the amendment, you just seconded it so it would be heard, but you
It's
don't
got to be
agree
heard
with the
and discussed.
amendment.
But I just stated my position. I believe that absentee ballots should have a reason. There should be a valid reason. You should be able to validate that reason. There are a number of reasons, whether it's out of town, whether it's college, whether it's elderly, whether it's infirm, whether it's, if you can't, some people can't get off work, those kind of things. We have 6 weeks of early voting.
I thought that was already law.
It was.
Well, what happened to it?
Well, the Republicans changed it.
Yes,
They did.
Yes, sir, 2005.
Well, we ought to know who those people are.
Well, I wasn't there then, thank God.
One of them's a congressman right now.
Which one?
Okay,
All right.
we have Tom here.
I had a question right here first. I'm sorry, Teresa.
Okay.
Well, that gets to part of my question. What good does it do to make all this legislation if the Secretary of State and a loudmouth opponent can get together on their own and change it? Right. And number two, if there's egregious violations of election law, there's sworn affidavits of inappropriate behavior, and there's no hearing, and even if there is a hearing, there's no consequences for poor behavior.
Some of this legislation will correct that. Let me take it one item at a time. I'll try to go backwards. Consequences for the egregious behavior, changing those from misdemeanors to felonies. There's no investigation. We will be voting to remove the broad ability that some of these decisions were made in under the health state of emergency declared by the governor, and remove the Secretary of State's ability to make decisions, unilateral decisions like that.
So-
They were too broad. I mean, frankly, they were too broad.
The problem was the governor and the Secretary of State.
Okay.
I wouldn't characterize it like that, but no, I wouldn't characterize it as a problem with the governor and Secretary of State. I mean, we had a health pandemic at the time. The governor did the right thing in filing for the health state of emergency. We're redefining some of those criteria and some of those abilities that are within that. So.
Okay, Tom,
Mr. Miller, here's 6 questions. I'm gonna ask one, and then if you could get back to Teresa at Hall County and myself at a convenient time. My first question, as Senate President, you yield great strength but are thwarted by the executive branch. Will you support efforts or lead an effort to place the Lieutenant Governor's position back solely in the executive branch?
I would be delighted to see that happen. I had a bill to that effect last year. Frankly, I think with all the elections hullabaloo that we had, I didn't think it was the appropriate time. I think the
It's
second.
very appropriate now, because when you have the Lieutenant Governor going on CNN and saying there was no fraud, he casts a pale on the whole state's legitimacy.
Was that a question? I'll be delighted to answer your question. Yes, sir.
On the way over here this morning, I stopped and got a biscuit. And I stuffed the credit card in the machine.
Yeah.
They gave me a receipt and told me what I ordered. Every retail place gives me a receipt. Every one of them. And a credit card tells them who I am and who to charge it to.
Yep.
I walk into a vote, I show them a driver's license. It could be illegal, it could not be illegal. There's no check mark in that.
Yes, sir.
When I vote, I get a Q code on some piece of paper that I don't even get a piece of paper to walk out with, that I can't read, that's proprietary, and I don't know what it says. And you do an audit, and all it does is you take that same piece of paper and run through the machine again, and you run through the machine again, you know, and it's the old thing of, are we crazy? Doing it over and over and over, right? No, I can't even read the thing as to who I voted for on that piece of paper. You get through with the Dominion machine, you take the memory stick out, it's got the totals on it, and you run it someplace, you talk about chain of custody over it, and you read it in some other machine, and hopefully it all adds up. There's no chain of custody on that memory stick. When you take it out of the machine and download that Dominion machine,
Currently, there is not, that's correct.
and it goes over to another machine, there's no check mark or anything. I could change the memory sticks, I could do whatever I want to it. The bottom line is this. The Dominion machine was a waste of money.
Yes.
Everybody in here cannot verify who they voted for. Not a one of them. They have no piece of paper that they know who they voted for. You can't verify it and audit it because you don't have a piece of paper that you can read that really says who they did vote for. If you have to scrap the $170 million you spent for that, if you have to scrap the $170 million, it's worth it to get a fair vote for these people in this room that you want to talk about election integrity. That's where it starts.
Thank you, sir.
Do you ever come up and talk about being a resident for a certain amount of period of time before you can vote? Because
Yes.
or at least have to pay taxes or something.
A federal judge ruled, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, he was a Bush appointee. A federal judge ruled that as long as you were in the state 30 days prior to the election, that you were able to vote. And I can understand that and can agree with that. I can understand his point. You know, I can follow that chain of logic. The logic that I can't follow is that the judge also ruled that the runoff was a separate election. To me, the runoff was a continuation of the original election.
Yes.
So, again, that's something that was changed under who? Republicans. When? 2005. And that also, there was one other aspect of that escapes me at the moment. It was an ongoing, the same election ongoing. There's some other aspect of it, Charles, that escapes me at the moment. I'll get back to you on that though. But yes, I agree they should be living in the state prior to the election for a period of time. This gentleman right here, young man, I'm sorry, he has had a hand up.
I have great respect for all you who serve, because we have to have good people working for us. The problem I'm having right now is that we're letting way too many people get away with things that shouldn't be done, that are supposed to serve us.
Yes, sir.
I do not understand in a situation where we have someone who has spent 10 years in our legislative house, who's an attorney, can go out and conspire to defraud us all of our election. And there's no consequence for her. And there's no consequence for the Secretary of State, who should know the law and know that he should have gone before the legislature, before they made these changes. Those changes affected every ballot that we have in every county. So when you count your ballots and you say that was a fair election, it wasn't by the rules of our laws. And that is a problem we're having with all of our officials right now, being bought out in China, different places, people that shouldn't be in office, because they're taking that oath. And they're saying they're gonna uphold the Constitution, they say they're gonna do the rule of law, and then when they go out and do something like this, Stacey Abrams should be restricted from never being a public servant again, because she's an attorney and she also was a legislator. She knows the law, but yet she still went away with her idea of being able to capture an election and steal that election from us, because you all won't do anything to her.
No
And that is not the way it should be done.
I understand you.
And I just want to know why you guys won't take
And I
and
appreciate
address
your
the rule of
passion.
law.
I understand your
Like I say,
point.
I vote for you guys all the time. I fight hard for you guys. And I respect you. I mean, you're giving time that our families, we count on you to protect our children, our grandchildren, and our own families. But right now, we got 2 years of hell in front of us with what we have because this election was taken from us. And that's all I'm trying to say. I have great respect for you. I have a list, 20 questions, if you would please. If you put them in writing, if you will put them in writing, if you will put those in writing,
No, I'll take it.
and send it back to Teresa so that we can publish that, believe me, I want you to continue. I want you to be our leader, but I want you to lead us. I don't want these people getting away with things. We got a president that should never have been president. The things that he's done and what's gone on. And we're letting the rule of law get away from us. And that is a problem we're having throughout this country right now.
David,
Thank you.
I understand your point. I understand your point, and I'm not disputing it one bit.
Yeah.
You know, I will tell you, I appreciate your passion. Thank you for speaking candidly.
I respect you guys. Like I say, it
I
hurts to
appreciate
see
that.
this. It hurts a lot.
You cannot imagine how it hurts. You cannot imagine how it hurts when a young child asks you, why did so and so happen?
Everybody in
But-
this community respects you, Butch.
That's
And
kind of you to say.
You know, we want leadership, but we're not getting leadership. They're letting things, the reason that we have the president we have right now is because nobody was challenging him and got him knocked out. You know the Constitution, the oath that has to be given. Those people were selling us out when they were in office. They should never be back in office again. Stacey Abrams should never be in office again. And quite frankly, Brad shouldn't be either as our Secretary of State, because he should know better than what he did.
Exactly.
And that's the problem I see. And it really breaks my heart, because I mean, we vote for these people. We hope that they're going to take care of our
We
families.
vote for them, we work for them, we
And-
believe in them.
and you all are
We put our
servants to
faith and
us.
confidence in them.
But
I understand.
we have a lot of elitists in the game, and that's a problem.
Okay, we can only take a couple more answers because questions because we're running out of time.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
It is a question, not no. What I want to ask you, if Raffensperger had not changed the voting laws because of COVID-19, I'm asking you, do you think that we could have found 12 more thousand votes in Georgia for Trump?
The answer to that question would be yes. I think, the answer to that question, I think that the method in which it was handled created the largest increase turnout we've ever witnessed. I got Matt right here, sorry.
Hey Butch, I actually had somebody to text a question for you. So they said to ask you, do you have any idea what the Senate's going to do to hold the Secretary of State accountable to adjudicate cases of fraud reported during this election? And they said they know that the Secretary of State is currently adjudicating fraud cases from 16, 17, 18, and 19.
That's correct, David. Matt, the fact that when I made a statement earlier that I didn't think the investigation responsibility was in the right area, it needs to be in an area where they're accustomed to doing investigations and prosecutions. Either grand jury, I heard somebody mumble grand jury, I don't know who it was, somebody, grand jury. I'm a second signer on that bill. Grand jury, GBI, or Attorney General. I like the Attorney General. I like the Attorney General because he's elected.
Well,
All right.
now, question.
I got one right here. This lady's been, and I'll come to you. All right. I'll stay here as long as you. I can stay here till 11 o'clock.
Well-
I've got to go to a funeral
Yeah.
from here. I got to meet my wife for lunch, and we got to go to a funeral. So I've got to leave here at 11 or just within a minute or so. But I'd like to answer every possible question I can and address I can't always answer the question. I want to address every question. Yes, ma'am.
I have a people talking.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
So the big turnout was for them, not for me. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. You know that our Congress, our federal Congress, is trying to change the election law so that they can take it over. what can we do as a state to protect ourselves from the overreach of our federal government?
You know, I've been doing a lot of, we have a staff attorney, and Steve is an attorney as well. This is Steve Tippins, my chief of staff. If you call my office, if you don't get me, you'll get Adeline, who is our admin, Adeline, Adeline. You'll get Steve, or you'll get Tyler Master, or you could get an intern, but you probably get one of the three of those. And we have our staff attorney taking a look at that now. States' rights trump. State rights trump federal meddling, bickering. Federal, it's just that's just inappropriate. We're looking into that right now. We're also looking into, there's a Midwest state, like it might have been Wyoming or something, I forgot what state, where they had passed a law or in the process of passing a law that would prohibit executive orders of certain types being implemented in their state. We're looking into that as well. Those are things those are legal questions, and you have to have, a very wise man told me once, we had this little discussion, and it wasn't going my way. And I said, well, that's not right. And he said, but it's the law. Until you get a judge to rule otherwise, that's the way it is. So, I mean, that is the lay of the land to some degree. This young man right here, I'm sorry, right, yes, the lady. Yes, ma'am.
The Dominion voting machines.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't see that on the list of changes. And so what?
It's not on, it is not on any of the.
That'll be voted on in this session.
The discussion around the Dominion voting machines is how do we address it? How do we address the lack of confidence in the machine, the lack of validity as a gentleman? Wait a minute. Just hear me out. But if that ultimately may be the outcome, but we've got to address it, because we will never restore. I fear that we will never restore confidence in the ballot box when the men and women in this room walk in there and it says Dominion on the machine.
Will that be done before the next election?
We've got 4 years to really look, 2 years to really look at that. 2 years to look at that. Yes, sir.
You started this meeting with pointing out that we hadn't succeeded in what we wanted to do with a number of people.
Yes.
I got a question for this group. How many people in this room are under 50 years old?
Or what?
Under 50 years old.
Under 50. How about better yet? How many are over 50? Raise your hand over 50.
That's your problem, man.
Keep your hand up.
There's your problem.
Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. I will tell you something. As long as y'all keep meeting on a Saturday morning, you will never have gotten Butch Miller in here, because I had 3 kids going to play t-ball, going to play baseball. I wanted to play golf. My wife had a dozen chores for me because I worked all week. As long as you keep meeting on Saturday morning, you're going to keep getting what you got. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead. Am I right? Am I right? You keep meeting at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, and you are sealing your fate. Have something on a Thursday afternoon, or a Tuesday afternoon at 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock. And guess what else you can do at 5 o'clock?
Every person in this room that comes next meeting, bring somebody under 50 with you.
Yes.
Come on.
There you go. Everybody bring somebody under 50 with you to the next meeting. I'll give you a coupon for a free car wash.
I only have one more question.
Oh, I'm having so much fun.
All right, the watermarks that you mentioned is a good way to alleviate or mitigate counterfeiting, and so I would suggest that go through. As far as the legislation to penalize the board chair of any precinct that does not follow state law, that will not work very well. I think money is the best means. If you penalize them by withholding, whether it's highway funds, whatever it means, from the state, if they are out of compliance, as far as it goes.
as far as the young lady over there talking about HR 1, there's 2 parts to the United States Constitution that would invalidate that law, and it would fail if fought, and I would assume that the state of Texas, or should I call it the Republic of Texas, would fight it in the Supreme Court there, and they would lose that as far as it goes. But we've got to fight.
Yes, sir.
We have got to fight.
Yes, sir.
I recently retired from an agency that had a U.S. attorney here in the state of Georgia tell us that she would not prosecute any more Democratic public officials until a Republican was brought forward. There are no Republicans on Atlanta City Council. All right?
That's kind of a...
We've got to fight the battle.
Yeah, yes, sir. I thank you very much for your
Now,
comment.
my last comment
Okay.
is, and this is for any Republican, I've always, if I didn't know the Republican and I saw the little eye for incumbent, they got my vote. Stress to your colleagues, they've got to earn my vote. Now,
So there you go.
if you are unsuccessful, I will vote against any Republican with a little eye.
Gotcha. I'm not here for the hell of it. I'm here for that very reason. I want to earn your vote. I want to earn your vote. You know, and it's increasingly difficult when there is a false narrative, when there's misinformation, when there's fighting within the party, when it's election reform needed.
All right.
All right, I'm being given the hook. Ladies and gentlemen, I got two more things for you. April 10th, 1923. In Paris, France, Teddy Roosevelt gave a speech. It was called, I think it was called something like The Responsibility of Citizenship.
Amen.
And Teddy Roosevelt talked about family values, family rights, property rights, human rights. He talked about the struggle of democracy. And at that time, he had been beaten to a pulp, figuratively. And the name of that speech became known as the Man in the Arena. I don't believe that, I believe that very few people run for office without the very best intentions. But that poem, that letter, that speech talks about the man in the arena, how he's sweating, and he's toiled, and he's dirty, and he's bleeding. And there is someone on the sideline sitting there that will never know the thrill of victory and will never know the pain of defeat because they were not bold enough to get in the ring. I want to encourage every one of you to get in the ring. And in that, I mean in your communities. What is your community? Your community might be your group at the coffee shop. Your community might be your neighborhood. Your community might be your car club. Your community might be your golf group. Your community might be your church. Get in your community and get active. Because that is what we have to have. As this gentleman points out, as I said in my opening remarks, ladies and gentlemen, we got to broaden our tent. Socioeconomically, we got to broaden our tent. Demographically, we got to broaden our tent. Ethnically, we got to broaden our tent. Those are the challenges that we have going forward. I would encourage you to witness for your community, witness for your country, and witness for God. God bless you, and thank you very much for having me.